Hello guys. Welcome to KDRAMACage. Today we are going to listen interesting story of a Netflix Korean drama. My name is Loh Kiwan. So without further ado, let's start the video. My name is Loh Kiwan, Part 1. The Escape from North Korea. Loh Kiwan never thought he'd see the sky beyond the barbed wires of North Korea. But after years of oppression, poverty, and watching his mother suffer, he knew staying would mean death. Not just physical but spiritual. His mother, a woman of silent strength, gathered all the money she had been saving over years, sewn into coats, hidden in rice bags, and passed on by desperate friends who had escaped before. They crossed the border in the dead of night, first into China, then secretly through various underground routes, constantly afraid of being caught and sent back. Each step was a gamble with death. They stayed hidden in safe houses, where the walls whispered stories of other defectors. But freedom came with a price. In the chaos of moving from one hiding place to another, Kiwan's mother fell ill. She began coughing blood, and her strength diminished with each passing day. Still, she smiled and said, "You are the reason I live. Kiwan, if you reach safety, my life will be fulfilled." Lost in the middle of freedom. They finally arrived in Belgium, a place neither of them had seen nor could truly understand. It was cold, foreign, and uncaring. Kiwan and his mother were placed in a temporary shelter for asylum seekers. Just when it seemed like they could finally breathe, tragedy struck. His mother's condition worsened rapidly. The stress, the cold, and untreated illness took her away one night, silently, without warning. Kiwan held her in his arms and cried for hours. There was no one to comfort him. No funeral rites, no family, no community. Just silence. He cremated her alone. He watched the flames take the only person who had ever truly loved him. From that day, Kiwan became a ghost in a strange land, alive but hollow. Struggling in Belgium. Now alone in Belgium, Kiwan applied for political asylum. The immigration office gave him a paper, a date, and a waiting period full of uncertainty. He tried to find work but lacked documents and language skills. He did small jobs, cleaning, washing dishes, carrying boxes, anything that gave a few euros. Most days, he wandered the streets with an old backpack, the last memory of his mother tucked inside. A letter she wrote for him, full of hope and love. He lived in a small dormitory with other immigrants, cramped, noisy, and often unsafe. Some resented him, others pitied him, no one understood him. Kiwan missed home, not the nation that oppressed him, but the sound of his mother humming, the taste of her food, the smell of rain in their small village. He cried alone, spoke to no one, and sometimes sat at the edge of the bridge, looking down at the freezing river, wondering what it would feel like to disappear. Meeting Marie. Then one day, he met Marie. She was fierce, angry, and lost, just like him. They met at a refugee help center, where Marie was volunteering part-time, though half-heartedly. She saw him sitting silently in a corner, staring at a cracked wall. Something about his stillness moved her. She sat beside him and said, "You look like someone who's already died." Kiwan replied, "Maybe I have." They didn't talk much that day. But something clicked. A thread of pain connected them. Marie had her own demons, abandonment, betrayal, a complicated past that made her mistrust everyone. But she saw something in Kiwan, a brokenness that mirrored her own. Over time, their paths kept crossing. She began helping him, teaching him basic French, telling him how to navigate the Belgian bureaucracy, even offering him warm food when she saw he hadn't eaten. One day, when she found him sleeping outside during snowfall, she dragged him to a temporary shelter and shouted, "You want to die? Fine, but not tonight, not like this." From then on, they started to talk slowly, carefully. He told her about North Korea, about his mother, about the letter. She listened, and for the first time in years, Kiwan felt seen. Preparing for the asylum interview. The biggest test was yet to come, Kiwan's asylum interview. Marie helped him prepare, rehearsing his story, correcting his posture, coaching him not to panic under pressure. But trauma isn't easy to rehearse. When Kiwan practiced, he would sometimes break down. He'd start shaking when talking about the military camps or his mother's last night. Marie would hold his hand and say, "It's okay, breathe, I'm here." On the day of the interview, Kiwan dressed in his cleanest shirt. Marie gave him a small necklace with a bird pendant and whispered, "This is for strength. You'll fly. You'll be free." In the interview room, Kaiwan faced cold, official eyes. He told his story with honesty and vulnerability. His voice trembled, but he spoke of his escape, his mother's death, and his desire to live a life of dignity. When they asked him, "Why do you want to stay here?" he replied, "Because I want to live, not survive, just live for her." The waiting game. After the asylum interview, life became a waiting game. Kaiwan was left in limbo, not approved, not rejected, just waiting. Days bled into weeks. Each time the mail arrived, his heart beat faster, hoping for a letter from the immigration office. He continued working odd jobs, delivering newspapers in the early morning, scrubbing restaurant floors at night. His body was exhausted, but his spirit held on. Marie stayed by his side, becoming his only anchor in a foreign land. They weren't officially in love, but something deeper than romance existed between them, a quiet, mutual understanding. One night, while they walked under a rainy sky, Marie asked, "Do you ever think about going back?" Kaiwan stopped. "Going back means dying. But living here doesn't feel real either." She replied, "Maybe neither of us has a home. Maybe that's why we found each other." A glimpse of happiness. Life briefly began to soften. Kaiwan got a temporary work permit while waiting for the final decision. He found a stable job at a packaging company. It wasn't much, but it paid regularly. He started saving money, eating better, and even laughed once or twice. Marie had her own transformation. Her past was filled with wounds, from parents who abandoned her, from foster homes that treated her like a number, and from years of mistrust. But with Kaiwan, she found a kind of peace she hadn't known. They started spending evenings together, cooking, listening to soft music, sometimes just sitting in silence. For the first time in years, Kaiwan bought a small potted plant and placed it on his window. "It needs care, like people," he told her. Marie began painting again, abstract pieces filled with bold, angry colors. One day, she painted a portrait of Kaiwan, but his face was blurry and surrounded by fire and rain. "That's how I see your past," she said. "But your future, I'll paint that one day." Their bond grew stronger. They never said, "I love you," but their actions screamed it. The letter and the truths. One day, Kaiwan finally received a letter. It wasn't from the immigration office. It was from a North Korean refugee organization in Belgium. They had found a file, a document smuggled by someone else who had escaped later. Inside it was a photograph, a blurry image of Kaiwan's mother holding a child. But the date on the photo shook him. It was taken before they left North Korea, but the child wasn't him. Confused and shocked, Kaiwan reached out to the organization. After weeks of digging, a truth emerged. His mother had lost her first child years before Kaiwan was born, a daughter. She never told Kaiwan, but carried the pain silently. The letter Kaiwan carried, the one he thought was addressed to him, had a hidden message. It was a message for both children. Kaiwan sat for hours reading the letter again, seeing it with new eyes. It said, "To my children, born of the same pain, I could not save one, but I gave all I had to save the other. Please forgive me, please live, for both of you." Kaiwan wept like never before. He had carried guilt for her death, but now he realized she had carried 2 lives' worth of sorrow. And she chose to give her last breath to ensure at least one survived. The verdict. Finally, the day came. Kaiwan received the official decision from the immigration office. Hands trembling, he opened the envelope. Asylum granted. Legal residence approved. He could now live, work, and be protected in Belgium. He stood in the hallway, frozen. Marie rushed in, reading his face. He simply held out the paper. She read it, smiled, then, for the first time, hugged him tightly. He hugged her back, not as a refugee, not as a broken man, but as someone reborn. They celebrated with cheap wine and takeout food. Marie gave him a blank notebook and said, "Write your story, someone should read it one day." Kaiwan said, "Maybe, but first I want to live my story." A new beginning. Months passed. Kaiwan moved into a small rented apartment, modest but his own. He continued working, saved more money, and even began taking classes to learn French and Dutch. Marie encouraged him to apply for citizenship one day. She herself was trying to find peace, maybe even return to school. Their nights became softer. They laughed more, argued sometimes, but always came back to each other. They visited his mother's ashes, which he had kept stored in a temple. There Kaiwan finally said goodbye properly. He whispered, "I made it, mother, I'm living. I have someone, I will be okay now." And Marie, standing beside him, held his hand, letting the silence wrap around them like a promise. Epilogue. Lo Kaiwan didn't become rich or famous, but he became free. He built a life out of broken pieces, loved with a full heart, and carried the memory of his mother like a guiding light. His name was no longer just a name. It was a story of escape, pain, love, and survival. And in a quiet corner of Belgium, a man once considered invisible finally began to shine. New beginnings. After the asylum was granted, Kai Wan stood at the doorstep of his new life. The cramped refugee shelter that had once suffocated him now felt like a distant memory. He had his own small apartment in a modest part of Brussels. The walls, though bare, held the promise of new beginnings. Though the apartment lacked the comforts of home, it was his own space. His first purchase was a plant, a small, hardy cactus. It sat proudly on the windowsill, a symbol of his survival and resilience. Every day, he watered it, tending to it like it was his own future. He spent his days working at a packaging company. The job wasn't glamorous, but it provided stability. It wasn't just the money he valued, but the feeling of being a part of something, of earning his place. He had found a sense of purpose, however small. Marie, always by his side, encouraged him to pursue his dreams further. She knew he had potential far beyond the menial work he did, but Kaiwan wasn't ready yet to take that leap. He still carried the weight of his past with him, and the scars of his journey were not easy to forget. Marie's support. Marie, though not related by blood, became Kaiwan's anchor. They had grown closer, but their relationship had always been more than just romantic. It was built on shared pain, mutual respect, and an understanding that neither of them truly belonged anywhere except together. One evening, after a particularly long day, Marie handed Kaiwan a brochure for a language school. "You should take this course," she said. "You've been here long enough. It's time to learn the language properly. It'll open doors for you." Kaiwan hesitated. "What if I fail? What if I can't fit in?" Marie smiled, placing a hand on his. "You've survived worse, you'll manage. And even if you don't, I'll be here." Her unwavering faith in him slowly began to chip away at his doubts. Kaiwan enrolled in the language course the next day. It wasn't easy, the words felt foreign, the sounds awkward in his mouth. But each day he pushed through. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The past haunts him. Despite his new beginnings, Kaiwan couldn't fully escape his past. At night, memories of North Korea still haunted him, the faces of the people he left behind, the endless search for his mother's approval, the weight of survival in a country that cared nothing for its people. These thoughts often kept him awake. He visited the memorial for North Korean defectors, who had died on their journey to freedom. It was a quiet, somber place, and every time he visited, the pain of his loss seemed to deepen. But he also found solace there. It was as if the spirits of the fallen spoke to him, urging him to keep moving forward, to honor their sacrifices by living. Marie's struggles. While Kaiwan was finding his way, Marie struggled with her own demons. Her past was just as painful, though she seldom talked about it. The abandonment she felt as a child, the years spent in foster homes, and the betrayal by those she trusted weighed heavily on her. Kaiwan noticed the changes in her. She seemed more distant at times, lost in thoughts she didn't share. One evening, as they sat together in the park, he finally asked, "What's going on?" "Marie, you've been different." Marie looked at him, her eyes sad but resigned. "I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm still running away from everything, my past, my mistakes. I don't know how to stop." Kaiwan took her hand gently. "We're both running, Marie, but maybe we can stop together, maybe we can face it." Her face softened, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to lean on him. In that moment, they both understood that healing wasn't a linear process. It would take time, and there would be setbacks, but they had each other. That was enough to keep going. The decision to stay. Kaiwan's path to citizenship was a long one, filled with bureaucracy and uncertainty. But after several months, he finally received the long-awaited approval. He was now a legal resident of Belgium. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was the key to a future he hadn't dared to dream of, the future his mother had fought for, the future he had fought for. As the days passed, Kaiwan started to build something that resembled a life. He applied for a better job, one that utilized his skills more. He continued his language lessons and slowly began to feel more at home in Belgium. He no longer felt like a visitor in a foreign land. It was his home now, even if it had taken years to get here. Marie's return to art. Marie, too, began to rediscover herself. She went back to painting, pouring her feelings onto the canvas. She created works that were raw, emotional, and full of life. Her art became a form of therapy, a way to exorcise the ghosts of her past. One day, she showed Kaiwan a painting she had completed. It was a portrait of him, but with a twist. The face was blurred, the background filled with chaotic strokes of red and blue, symbolizing the storm of emotions he carried within. "It's you," she said, "but it's not just your face. It's your soul, the one you hide so well." Kaiwan studied the painting in silence. He recognized the pain, the struggle, the hope. It was all there. "It's beautiful," he whispered, choking back tears. "But it's not just me, it's both of us." Marie smiled softly. "Yes, it is." Looking forward. In the final scene, Kaiwan and Marie stand together in front of a small art gallery. Marie's paintings are being displayed, and they are finally being recognized. The people who once saw them as invisible, as nothing more than refugees, now saw them for what they were: survivors, artists, and fighters. As Kaiwan looks at Marie, he realizes that their journey isn't over. There will still be challenges ahead, and the scars of their past will always be a part of them. But together, they have built something beautiful. They've found a home not in the physical sense, but in each other. With a quiet smile, Kaiwan says, "We've made it, haven't we?" Marie nods, holding his hand tightly. "Yes, and we're just getting started." The end. If you want to watch more videos like this, then do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.